Hey guys, happy Friday. Last word presented by Chrisman Commentary. It's our first last word of April and of Q2. And I think there's a lot of words to talk about this week, huh? We'll start with how are you all doing?
I'm great. Sun's out here in Detroit. We survived the big storms of the week. Big week for so many reasons. Every single day there sounds like there's like something new that goes viral in the interwebs, even nationally. Mortgage is hitting the national news this week for a lot of reasons. So excited to hear everybody's thoughts today. Christy?
I mean, it is not sunny, but it's windy and overcast here. No rain yet, so it's been a good day. It's been a busy morning. Not only have there been a lot of things happening this week, there have been a lot of things happening today.
Yeah, it's a little windy here. Not as bad as yesterday in Newport Beach. No complaints. Nobody cares. Nobody listens anyway. The big news of the week, because we're in the mortgage industry, is that rates are down, locks are up. We're busy as hell. Like, let's celebrate that.
Love that.
How long are we to go before we talk about tariffs? I don't care. Rates are down, locks are up. We are all going to crush it in the month of April, in the month of May, and probably even June. Let's freaking go. Sorry, I feel liberated.
I'm glad to see you have so much energy.
I just hit my espresso and it's kicking in. You guys are in trouble.
So let's start with rates because yeah, they're down for sure. What's the early feedback that you're seeing besides some of the obvious, a little bit of enthusiasm around that?
I got more enthusiasm. I could get even more enthusiastic. I mean, we've been getting the shit kicked out of us in this industry since the middle of 22. It is nice to have this. That's what I want to talk about. I don't want to read headlines about tariffs. We're going to talk about tariffs. I got a hot take on tariffs. And I practiced with Steve Scanlon at Rewire about 10-6ing. I could be at a 10 level, but it kind of turns people off when you get super excited or have a huge opinion and you voice it. So I'm gonna dial it back to a 6. But I will tell you what, I want to be at a 10 because we are going to make profit. We are going to, and we haven't. I mean, the latest MBA report showed that people didn't make profit in Q4. Maybe Q1 wasn't the best for everybody, but Q2 is looking to be really, really good. And so, yeah, there's some challenges out there. Yes, there's some uncertainty. Yes, there are people and their feelings out there that want to talk about all the possible negativity. I want to talk about reality and hard data. Rates are down, locks are up. It is freaking great time to be in our business. One of the best times to be in our business since 2021. Maybe even, I would say even about as good as last August, September, and October when the 10-year Treasury touched 389. It is a great time to be in our business.
Well, this is my standard. Where is the market today? We're at 3.953 on the 10-year. But what's interesting to see, and KP, maybe you're seeing this as well, we're starting to see margins widen. To your point about lenders being able to actually make some money in the business, we're seeing margins start, not there yet, but start to return to a more normal spread where you can actually make money in the origination channel.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. I just kind of want to, I don't want to jinx it because I want to make sure that it lasts, right? The last time we saw rates like this, to KP's point, last year it lasted, a week or so.
Yeah.
So let's hope it lasts a little longer this time.
Yeah, agreed. And I'll just say, it was August running up to the Fed meeting in the middle of September that we saw the 10-year Treasury coming down. A nice month and a half worth of locks to fill up our capacity overflowing. And for us, our fundings rolled all the way through November. We had a humongous November fundings. And so profitability comes in when the spread between the 30-year fixed rate and 10-year Treasury gets more narrow. So there's less, there's more profit when that spread comes in. And, every time the Fed cuts, it is a belief that this is, because remember, the Fed waits and waits and waits and waits, and then they finally cut, always after when they should. And it is basically telling the bond market, the mortgage-backed security market, hey, we believe in this lower peg, this lower floor, this lower level of interest rates, which is great for our national debt and deficit, which I'd love to talk about in a couple minutes, and how it helps me square what's going on with tariff talk. But when spreads come in, we do make more money. And, it's so funny because everyone has a different view on, lenders making money. We have to make money.
Yeah.
We didn't make money for a very long time. And so, if someone says, hey, hire me now and I demand this wage, or I want to raise right now, we're not saying, well, we lost $10 million in 2022. So we're still trying to get that back. Like that, a closer doesn't care. Hey, I just faced a hardship in my life. I need some more money. And I hear you talk about being profitable. We fucking lost $10 million in 2022. We made more in 21 and 20, but we don't like losing money. We'd like to get some of our losses back. And you don't do it by immediately hiring a bazillion people and giving everyone a raise. And so if this is real and it's sustained, then all that comes. That loyalty gets paid off. That high performance gets paid off in this business. And what I will say to kick it over to Courtney, now that rates are down and 2.5 million loans are in the money today. All right, all the loans we've been doing the last 2.5 years with higher rates that are all in the money for refinance. How good will the servicers be? How good will they be at taking that business and blowing out originators who call their former client when the loan's in a portfolio somewhere? Who's going to win that battle? The originator versus servicer battle. And as we know, there's been a lot of news about servicers being bought when Mr. Cooper was acquired by Rocket. So who's going to win those battles? Those battles are raging right now.
I love that. It's a great segue to get Courtney's kind of take on that. And while we're with you, Courtney, why don't you kick us off after giving your thoughts on that battle and who's best positioned to win it? But then you can kick us off with the Rocket Cooper.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. So there's a small distinction in what KP is saying that is very, very important to servicing that I think is missed in the lending world, right? So mortgage servicing, at least as I see it, and as most people have negotiated into their sub-servicing contracts, right, is all of the things that you do to comply with the laws of the series of investors, of insurers, to manage the thing that is an asset. Something like recapture retention has been like the redheaded mistress in the middle of lending and servicing for a long time, because we look to servicers and say, well, are you going to do a good job of getting my assets back? And you can negotiate that in, but someone that's a pure servicer does not really understand recapture retention. You have to have somebody that has very good, just DTC, universal skip chops. I'll say chops. And those people are not servicing people. And I love servicing people. And by the way, for our call center at CMG, we hired a LO who had DTC experience to manage our call center, to manage customer care, so that they had that brain, right, of a salesperson that we've learned is so important, or in a different way important, because I was a servicing person before I came to CMG. And now I feel like I'm a hybrid model. Hybrids are cool, right? So here we go. I'm learning, and KP, you've been helping me, Christy, Brian, along the way, and open for more learning. But I think that, a really good advice to anyone out there that's expecting their servicer to do that recapture retention, to call those consumers better than the LOs, or, all of these different highly energetic ways that Kevin framed it. You might want to look at your sub-servicing client to see what you really expect of them right now, and to see if you need to layer into that to do a little bit more work. Taking the SEGU to the big, I think we can call it, servicing acquisition of the week, the Rocket Cooper announcement on Monday. I had the honor of responding to the group email about the last word this week with genuine excitement because servicing news happened. And at the highest level, and then you guys tell me what people really want to talk about associated with this transaction. I think it's really, really interesting, right? Because Rocket is a really, really Detroit-centric company. I'm a Detroiter. I love living here. But we know that Rocket likes Rocket people in Detroit. And this is a huge acquisition out of Texas, right? Thousands of people in Texas that are working for this servicing organization. And they chose the head of Texas to be the head of this organization. So that's interesting question number one. What's going to happen with that? Interesting question number two is who's going to win, the Cooper consumer experience or the Rocket consumer experience? Both of these entities have that DTC capability. They've demonstrated that they're first in the market with that thing in the middle. But from a technology perspective, they're going to have to pick one. If I had to pick one, I'm probably fastest there going to pick the Rocket branded one because Rocket is a really, really strong brand. They have, evolved that brand over time. I'm not saying that Mr. Cooper doesn't, right? But I'm saying that nationally, Rocket has really made a lot of investments there. And there's a lot of rework there if you're going to use the Cooper experience for something like that. But the nastiest question, the most servicing question of them all is like, which mullet are you going to pick? Right? So business in the front, consumer experience, party in the back, the fragmented mess that is all servicing shops around the country because none of them were built on a data-centric model. All servicing shops in the entire country, and I am not hoeing out Rocket or Mr. Cooper, but they are very, very large. So the difference between them and everybody else is they have 60-year-old technology in the middle, or in one case, one of them has 40-year-old technology in the middle, but it's a distinction without a difference for these purposes. That they have maximized its usage by jamming 1 million point solutions into it for years to make their operations work better. And the type of scale that you're talking about at these two organizations would blow up the system in the middle if they don't take care of it the right way. And so first it is, what are you going to pick for business in the front? And then second it is, what are you going to pick for the party in the back? And how are you going to configure and reconfigure that in order to make this work? That's a multi-year endeavor, I think, in terms of what you're putting to the market. And, I would be remiss not to say I am a purist at the end of the day with regard to my criticism of the fact that the industry has not evolved away from these 60-year-old technologies. They're on two different technologies that are owned by two different companies. And one of the companies that is in the transaction has an ownership interest in one of the technology companies, and that is all public, right? Mm-hmm. And so to see how that's going to shake out it's actually like the jumbo size bucket of popcorn with the butter. And then they have those stations now at the movie theaters where you can put like different flavored salts on top. I'm going to go with jalapeno salt on this one, but that's kind of the 1, 2, 3 on what's going to happen after right now in servicing. I mean, I think that the one thing that is true in both cases, these are two best in industry servicing teams with best in industry servicing leaders. I've had an opportunity to work in different capacities with both of them. They have a lot of good humans over there. And so I think that they'll be fine at the end of the day, but this is a massive project from a servicing perspective.
So staying on the technology side of things, because it's for the most part this week, we've heard a lot of talk from the street, from the originator side, and depending on who you are, where you are, what channel you're in, there's all kinds of opinions on, is this good for me? Which is most of what I've heard in terms of people questioning things. They talk about the consumer impact, but when you peel back the onion, it's really about me, right? Me being an originator primarily.
Yeah.
But set that aside for a minute. There's another, potential sizable impact to an organization, technology organization. You named half of the equation, which is the servicing tech.
Yeah.
There's the other side of this acquisition, which is the origination tech.
Yep.
I believe the same organization is potentially at risk with two pieces of technology on either side of the equation.
It's the same problem, right?
Yeah.
It's the same problem. Both sides of the house are fragmented. Both sides of the house are owned or not owned by the entities, right? There's another new piece of servicing technology that has been dangled to the market, in this regard from one of the companies, but that has not gone live yet. It is if there was a dream job for me, this is literally my dream job, to be the person that gets to evaluate and make those decisions and do the business cases associated with that. And I actually have my dream job right now, so we're good. But if Fixer Courtney is like, this is insane, right? Think about the vendor relationships and the downstream impact to that. Think about, in our market, right? Right. Yeah. And then I think that there's this other problem where, on the Rocket side, right, everybody's talking about how this is just another step, like Truebill was another step, like Redfin was another step, data. The question is, which of these two organizations has made a better infrastructure investment in organizing this data in a usable way? I think that is the key question that will go, everything will fan down from, because decisions will have to be made around how they're organizing that, saving that, keeping that, using that information in consumer land. But these are very expensive, multi-year technology initiatives. Hopefully faster for one of them. And I think that it's the other big question, and I don't know, Christy, if you have a thought on this, would this transaction have happened if the CFPB wasn't benched?
Oh, I don't know, because here's the thing I would say, because that regulatory concern has come up a number of times. Look at how fragmented the mortgage market is, and look at how the leaders have changed, basically every 10 years. You combine their market share, not counting the servicing piece, but combine their origination market share, it's still less than 10% of the total market. And so how much of a concern is that for a regulator?
I'll just add that the regulator is the FTC, right? Or the SEC, since both are publicly traded. So both those entities would be the regulator. 1 in 6 mortgages are under one umbrella. So less than 10% of originations, less than 1% of real estate transactions at Redfin, but 1 in 6 mortgages are under that house now. As someone from Dallas married someone from Detroit, I can tell you that, Mr. Cooper acquisition by a Detroit-based Rocket, it can work. It's not always perfect, but we have 4 kids, so it's like having 1 in 6 kids in the neighborhood. But all kidding aside, there's an article that went out yesterday that basically said first blush of this regulatory passage is that it's a go. So it's going to be a go, and is more likely. And to your point, Courtney, about the CFPB, that would be, if the CFPB is not such a hammer and they've been handcuffed, then, that means if anything bad is happening, it's likely to go under the radar. And I don't think anything bad will happen. They're both very well-run companies. And I do agree. I think it'll be Rocket, and then Mr. Cooper name and dude with the glasses will go away. So it's interesting because you sit there and everyone's trying to automate their LOS to get assembly line underwriting to catch up to Rocket and UWM and Freedom, who have already mastered that because they spent tens of millions on building up their tech. And a lot of us on Encompass, we're about to get EMC, right? We're about to get the next gen. We're about to get the ability to, within our walls, build out more of an assembly line by assigning data fields to certain user roles, and multiple users can be in the 4,000 data points at the same time. And we're playing catch up. And so you sit there and go, well, once we do that and we get our cost produced down, we can compete with them. I mean, what's the next innovation? Boom. They bought Redfin. They bought Mr. Cooper, right? So the innovation continues, even if it's by good old fashioned revenue roll up and acquisition and M&A. And so who's going to buy Zillow? Who's going to buy them now, right? Who's going to come in and play that game? Who's going to become a servicer? God, man, you got to love Matt Ishbia. The next day, he's like, screw you, Mr. Cooper. We terminate our agreement. We're not selling anything. You're selling my enemy. We're out. I mean, they could just take
and
out.
he put a bounty on
Right.
the
The bounty.
loans, any loans that are with Mr. Cooper.
Brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant. And so, there's more innovation to come, things that we didn't see coming. I saw a post on LinkedIn for something I've been saying since the Redfin acquisition, and I think I said it on here, but I could absolutely see in Rocket TPO, I could see them taking some of their branches who already send them 90% business, go, why don't you just be a retail branch in Rocket? That's what, Better is doing that with the Neo group. And so you can't give a thing of value like a Redfin lead or a Mr. Cooper lead to a third party without charging them. And brokers don't want to pay, but if they're hanging their shingle and they are a true Rocket branch in retail, distributed retail, I could see them, saying, okay, now you're part of us. So now here's what you get to sweeten the pot. And that'll work for some business models. And I could see that coming. And so I've been calling that pretty openly for about a month. I think someone posted it, 2 days ago. But I think there's a lot more innovation to come. There's some consolidation to come, and people got to get their costs down. Servicer, and Courtney, to your point about how long it will take to aggregate the data as a bigger servicer, at the end of the day, just for rough numbers, whatever they spend, how much time they spend will be worth it, because the customer acquisition cost for an originator out hunting for a first-time home buyer is about $500 per transaction. It's only $100 on a refi. And so you look at, that's 20% the cost. You look at, a great company like Freedom, who we sell loans to. They were blowing through people by 100 basis points last year to our next best aggregator we sold to, and their retention's amazing. And so that bet of buying up business last year by Freedom is likely paying off right now. I bet their phones are ringing off the hook in the retention team. So, set the hooks in a little deeper with some of those, I would say, retention clients. And so, again, the battle between originator and servicer rages on.
Hey, Christy, I'm curious, in your seat at a credit union, like what was the reaction around the table in terms of what does this mean for our business as a credit union mortgage originator? Or is it kind of a non-event?
I don't know that's the conversation. I think the conversation really is similar for me as it is for KP, as it is for Courtney. And this is a wake-up call. If you haven't been focused on your business, if you have been sitting back saying, well, the next cycle is going to come, we're going to see rates drop, we're going to do whatever, and we're going to continue to wait like we have in the past. If you aren't thinking about what's next as a leader, then it doesn't matter if you're sitting in a credit union or you're at an IMB, whether or not you retain servicing or don't retain servicing. You've got to look at your model. You've got to look at your cost to originate. You've got to look at your client acquisition. You've got to look at your client retention. And you've got to really create a plan that's going to let you succeed for the next 10 years. And that plan is not going to be, well, we're going to get this drop in the 10 year. We're going to start to make more money and we're going to do whatever. That's the icing on the cake. You've got to have a solid business model and a solid plan, and you really need to be running your business day to day. I do feel like I'm a little bit of a broken record, that I feel like I'm always the one to bring us back to that reality of, hey, blocking and tackling and making sure you're doing the thing.
Yeah, I guess I think of it, I agree with you 100%. And I would say, irregardless of your size and scale and scope of your business, the playbook is in front of you now, right? Now, can you run a similar playbook as a local, single state or multi-state lender? I think the answer is yes. Of course, it's not going to be at that size and scale, but I think that's the playbook is there. The playbook is this kind of ecosystem around the consumer.
Well, and how deep are you with your vendors? This is another conversation that I think is really good. How deep and integrated are you with them? And are they true partners? And how are you influencing the roadmap so that you can create this type of innovation in your shop, even if you don't have the developers on staff or the cash to pay for it? How are you leveraging your partners? How are you making sure you're with the right people? Like these are really important conversations that if I were a betting human, I might be betting that most people aren't having with their vendors. They don't know what's on their vendor roadmap. And you're going to get caught short if you don't have the answers to these questions.
Okay, let's let the people eat cake. They want to talk about tariffs. We got 4 minutes left. We got to talk about it. So, ladies first, and then I'll drop my 10-6 hammer. I'll try and be a 6.
By the way, Courtney, did you hear that?
Yeah,
He said
I
ladies
know,
first.
That's what it's the way to do it. You become Frank Sinatra if you never say the word girl again. Everyone out there in the last word community, never say the word girl again. Just say lady, and you will always sound like a Rat Pack member. Kevin, thank you for being a member of the Rat Pack. It was beautiful. Before someone else talks about tariffs, I just want to put a little bit of sprinkles on what Christy just said, which I think is really important. If the lending community continues to go to the same 2 primary vendors for all of their end-to-end technology solutions, we're going to be in the same place that we are with regard to efficiency and the ability to move things forward over and over again. We repeat the definition of insanity from my perspective in this place over and over and over again. And not only the vendors that you work with in terms of, title and, flood and all the other things that we all need on both sides of the house. But I think that it's really a great opportunity for somebody to get in there and do something different, offer something different. And I also think that there's more room for collaborative models. I think that there's a lot of against, and there's a lot of things that a lot of us do the exact same way at the end of the day because the rules control it. How can we get more collaborative around that? In order for more of us to eat bigger pieces of cake? Yes, it does require maybe men that use the word girls to drop their egos a little bit, to think more collaboratively, more openly. But it's 2025. Some of the most successful models that we see outside of the mortgage industry are companies that are working together, not necessarily so somebody gets $5 for a new pair of shoes, right? But for the common good of both entities being larger, more impactful. And I think that mortgage needs to pull its head out of its sand about that. Mortgage probably also needs to pull its head out of the sand with regard to tariffs. So who would like to talk about it?
I can't say you go, girl.
Yeah.
No, you go, lady.
No.
I grew up
Good girl, so we'll keep that one.
Yeah, well, I did start with ladies first. All right, Christy, you're up, and then I get a minute to talk tariffs.
Look, I'll concede my time to you because I feel like I feel like I get to talk about tariffs a lot and the impact that they have, and depending on who you look at, you're going to get a very different story. And look, next week the tariff numbers might be different, but today they're driving the market changes, and we're seeing positive impacts. So at some point you have to look at your own best interest, and it is in my best interest for whatever is happening in the market to have a positive impact on rates like it is. So I'm going to stand back and cheer just a little bit. Now, whether or not that's the right answer for the country and the right answer for future trade, then I think it's got to go to somebody above my pay grade.
And nobody knows. So let me. This is my independent thought. Okay. So let me say it as a 10, which turns people off, and then I'll dial back to a 6. We are broke. We are broke as a nation. We are broke. We have a 222% debt to income ratio. I wouldn't give you a penny on any loan, no matter what. And DU would never say it. We are at one point in 23, a 126 DTI. So think of our nation as a loan, which we do every day. Our DTI is unsustainable. We are broke. Okay, so let me be a 6. What are you going to do about it? What are we going to do about our high GDP or debt to GDP? What can we do? Have we done anything other than spend more fiscally out of DC, which we'll be at next week? Advocacy Week for MBA. I think TMBA is out there. I'm on the board together with Brian, Broker Action Coalition. So I'll be there Monday to Thursday telling senators and representatives, hey, you went too far on the H-1B visa for non-permanent resident aliens. You need to pass sugar lead reform. And by the way, we're broke, and these things help us. You guys need to get more fiscally responsible. So if the tariff negotiation, which was kicked off on Liberation Day on Wednesday, started at a high point, that's to get people to the table. And we hold the cards from a consumer standpoint. And not surprising, the biggest other card holder, China, okay, whose economy is slowing, who holds the manufacturing card, which, by the way, we shipped all of our manufacturing, gave them leverage over us to squeeze us. Shine and Temu, they were excluded on Liberation Day, so you still get cheap crap. And I won't use any expletives, Robbie, my moral compass. I will just say it in a way that, we're broke and we need to do something about it. We need a little bit better trade balance. And this gets people to the table to have those conversations with 50 nations and then the other two that were named, Canada and Mexico, before. I think there'll be a 10% floor when this is all said and done, which is $320 billion in our $3.2 trillion of intake from foreign goods. And that's real money that goes back in our pocket. In California, 27% of people here are under the radar and pay no income taxes. No income taxes. They put nothing in the kitty and they drain all the resources. And this state is broke. We are absolutely broke. Now we got to pay for fires and insurance. We are broke. Before anyone says anything about tariffs, just start with that in the back of your head. What do I do when I'm broke? Maybe I spend less. Maybe we're not $1 million income earner. Maybe we become a $700,000 income earner as a nation. If the DTI is good, we'll still give you a loan. You just might have to have a smaller house. That's what it's about. We're broke. We shipped all our manufacturing away and we're absolutely broke and we've never done anything about it as a nation. And I'm not saying this is the right path. And I'm not saying where we are today is where we're going to end up being. And I have no idea if we're going to go into a recession. I don't like watching my stock market on paper bleed red all day today and yesterday. Thank God I bought a put 2 days ago, make a little bit of money back and hedge my losses and realize gains with that put being closed out. But we are broke as a nation and we need to do something. So it's good to see the conversation has started. I don't know where it's going to go from here.
KP, 24 hours and 57 minutes shorter than Mr. Booker's talk.
God bless that guy. He was wearing a diaper.
It had to be. Well, guys, I'm almost certain that we'll have as much, if not more, to talk about next Friday, and certainly for the several Fridays to come. Always love these times to get together, get your thoughts on things that are impacting our business, things that are impacting the humans that run our business, and ultimately the consumers that we all serve. Love doing this with you guys. Glad I was able to get on screen this week versus hiding in the background last week. But until next Friday, this was The Last Word, brought to you by Chrisman Commentary. Thanks, guys.